you had the one-on-one, and there was a lot to glean from it, I'm sure. I mean, a lot of moves to be made over these last few weeks, and you pretty much filled out a roster here. What what stood out to you the most? I know you kind of introed it when we opened the episode here, but what was maybe your biggest takeaway from the conversation that you guys had?
That he is not shying away from the predictions that they are going to be competitive in the Big Ten. He says, we own that. He said, that's why I came here to win in year one. And I said that at my opening presser, wanted to get off to a good start. Did not think that they would go 8 for 8 on the visitors that they really wanted, but did that. And he said, we basically got the guys that we targeted first, the ones that we really went after with aggression. Trey Donaldson, he said, Roddy Gale, and right down the list. He said he knew that Vlad was coming for a long time. So all these message board posters that were like, oh my God, why hasn't Vlad signed? And there were question marks. And he said he probably just, he just had to finish up some classwork or something. But he said he really sold these guys on the idea of playing with Vlad. And he really wanted guys that could play well in the pick and roll with him. And he said he found exactly what he was looking for. And he said, not only that, but they're just high character guys. He was talking about Reuben Jones, and I'm going to put up an article on him today. He played with a torn hamstring last year, I think, a partially torn hamstring. So he said he wasn't even healthy, but he was still the best defender in their conference. He said that they've got a couple guys that will be lockdown defenders. He think Roddy Gale can be too. And he's got a bigger role for Sam Walters. He thinks Sam Walters is more than just a shooter. He said there are things that we're going to do with him. They have an idea of how they want to put guys on the floor together. But at the same time, he said they've got to see him first. But this guy is everywhere. He basically did his one-on-one with us from Florida Atlantic, where he was watching his guys graduate. His kids love him, and you can tell that there's a lot of respect. The other thing that he said that I thought was very fascinating was when a couple of the recruits were in and the staff had been together for 2 days, and one of the kids said, you guys look like you've been together for years. He said the chemistry is off the charts. He said these guys are off and running. They've all got great connections. And you can tell when it came to Justin Pippen, he said, I had a mid-major coach call me the second I got the job. And he said, I tried to wrap him up early. He was too big for me, but he's perfect for you. And they watched film. He said he got on the phone with Akeem Miskdeen, and who had relationships with some of his people, and that's how they closed the deal. But he said they are absolutely thrilled to be here. You can tell he had the smile on his face when he was wearing that Block M. He said, I can't believe it. This is a guy that wanted to be here over these other coaching opportunities because he understands what the University of Michigan is all about. This is a grand slam hire, guys. He is going to win big here. I have no doubt.
Well, Clayton, I want to pivot to you here. I guess with this roster, I know there's still maybe a couple spots up for grabs, but lingering questions with this roster, and maybe something that we even ask tomorrow when we talk to him, like is there anything else that they'd like to address with this? When you look over what this roster has and what they're bringing to the table, what do you see as an opportunity to still kind of augment here?
Yeah, it's tough to exactly say because you haven't seen these guys play together, and you haven't seen what a Roddy Gale is going to be like as a junior in college, right? As opposed to a banged up sophomore, for example, because I think he's one of the guys that could be the difference makers on this team, or one of them, that, you have the ball in his hands late in the game, that sort of thing. I think they're missing potentially that piece, but again, it could be on the roster. And then, just maybe the vision on what the quote unquote 4 position is going to look like. You have Will Cheddar there. You have Sam Walters, who's kind of more of a big 3 probably than a prototypical 4. But as Dusty said, on I think it was Rothstein's podcast, when he basically said it's a lot of it's going to depend on who the other team has on the floor too, like what their rotation is going to look like. So you have Danny Wolf. You have a lot of height and size down there. So maybe it's that athletic big wing or a difference maker scorer. But honestly, what they're sitting at 12 scholarships right now, like it's a pretty good, talented, and deep team that I think there are probably some good players on this team that aren't going to get the minutes that they want just because they have filled this roster pretty impressively. 8 guys. I was trying to think of, I know Trey Townsend visited, they didn't get him. And I don't know, how hard they pushed, but was that the only visitor that they didn't get? It might've been that's pretty ridiculous. So CB, I know you wrote about that. That's fantastic stuff. And the fact that they were able to do that and that they can identify who they want, get them here, and get the interest reciprocated, and that they want to play for Michigan, for Dusty May, for this staff is really, really impressive. And as Dusty said in his intro presser, like part of building for the long term is winning in year one. And I think they're going to do that, pretty darn well here. You look at the roster right there. It's they've got a chance to do that once they forge things when they arrive around June 10th.
And that second year looks pretty good too as a base, right? Some of those guys might move on, but at the same time, he's going to be recruiting some other kids that are going to be really, really helpful to that team too. So I'm very excited about his roster composition. That was one area where Juwan Howard really had a hard time, right? And I think he put his eggs into a couple baskets there that a lot of people knew it wasn't going to pan out with these kids, and then got burned. And now you've got ball handlers, you've got guys that are at every position here where it's okay, who's going to play and who's going to sit. So I love it. I love what he's accomplished here, and going to be fun to watch, guys. I guarantee it.
I think what sticks out to me is, you just hit on it, Chris, operationally, how much more organized it is. I mean, this was a board of guys that, did he extend 40 offers, 45 offers? And those are just the ones we knew about. A couple of these guys kind of came out of nowhere. So the way that they were able to cast a wide net and do the legwork that you need to do, make sure these guys can get into school before you accept commitments and, go through the hoopla like Michigan did with, the Terrence Shannons of the world, certainly the Caleb Love situation last year. So, not to drag his predecessor on the way out the door, but I mean, this is the most organized Michigan basketball has been since John Beilein's been there. So to me, I think that's what sticks out. Excited to get to know some of those guys on the staff.